All right, Reddit, buckle up. This is a story I've been holding on to for years, a festering wound that finally burst open. It's about family, loyalty, secrets, and the explosive aftermath when they all collide. I'm still reeling, even weeks later, and I need to get this out. Let me introduce the cast. Me, Sarah, 32F, the quiet observer, the one who tried to keep the peace until I couldn't anymore. My sister, Emily, 30F, the golden child, the bride, the one who always got her way. My mother, Eleanor, 60F, the matriarch, the keeper of secrets, the architect of our family's carefully constructed facade. My father, Richard, 62M, the gentle giant, the oblivious victim, the man whose life was a lie. Emily's fiancé, Mark, 31M, a good guy, genuinely in love with Emily, completely unaware of the viper's nest he was marrying into. Our family, from the outside, was picture perfect. Upper middle class, 2 successful daughters, a loving marriage that had seemingly endured for over 35 years. Holiday cards, annual family vacations, polite smiles at church. We had it all. But beneath that gleaming surface, a dark current ran through everything, powered by a secret my mother had meticulously guarded for decades. I'd known about it since I was 16. It wasn't something she told me directly, but something I stumbled upon. A box of old letters, hidden in the attic, addressed to her from a different man. Love letters, passionate and intimate, dated before she met my father, and then, shockingly, continuing after their marriage, spanning several years into their early married life. I confronted her, naive and horrified. She broke down, begged me to keep it quiet, swore it was a mistake, a moment of weakness long past. She framed it as a youthful indiscretion that almost cost her everything, and that she chose my father, chose us, in the end. She painted herself as the repentant sinner, and me as her confessor, her confidant in this terrible ancient burden. She made me promise, on everything I held dear, that I would never tell Dad. It would destroy him, she sobbed. It would destroy our family. And so, I became the keeper of her secret. This secret was a heavy cloak I wore for 16 years. It poisoned every family gathering, every loving interaction I witnessed between my parents. When my dad would make a loving comment about how Mom was the only woman for him, or how grateful he was for their beautiful life, I'd see the shadow of those letters, hear the echo of her lies. It wasn't just her secret anymore. It became my burden. It warped my perception of my mother, turning her into a complex, almost monstrous figure in my mind. The loving mother facade was always there, but underneath, I saw the deceit. Emily, my younger sister, was blissfully unaware. She genuinely adored our mother, saw her as the epitome of grace and strength. Emily was always the more vivacious, outgoing sister, the one who shined brighter, effortlessly attracting attention. I was content to be in her shadow, observing, thinking. This dynamic was solidified from childhood. Emily was the golden child, the one Mom bragged about, the one whose achievements were celebrated more loudly. I often felt like an afterthought, important only in my capacity to hold Mom's secrets. My parents' marriage, from my unique vantage point, was a strange, delicate dance. Dad was utterly devoted, showering Mom with affection and praise. Mom, in turn, was outwardly loving, but there was a subtle detachment in her eyes when she looked at Dad, a flicker that I, the silent observer, could always catch. It was the look of someone maintaining a performance. As the years passed, the secret started to eat at me. It made me cynical about love, about marriage. I found it hard to commit in my own relationships, always wondering what hidden truths lay beneath the surface. I went to therapy for years, trying to unpack the anxiety and resentment the secret created. My therapist gently challenged me, asking whose burden it truly was, and whether my silence was protecting Dad or merely enabling Mom. The idea of telling Dad had crossed my mind countless times, but each time the image of his devastated face, the fear of shattering his world held me back. Mom's words, "It would destroy him," echoed in my ears. I loved my father fiercely. He was a good, honest man, and he deserved better than to have lived a lie for decades. But how could I be the one to rip that illusion away? Then came Emily's wedding. Emily and Mark were deeply in love, planning a beautiful, traditional wedding. Mom, of course, was in her element, orchestrating every detail, beaming with pride. She was the picture of the perfect mother of the bride, glowing, charming, the life of every pre-wedding event. The closer the wedding got, the more suffocated I felt. The hypocrisy was choking me. Here was Emily, embarking on a new life built on love and trust, while the foundation of our own family was a monumental lie, actively perpetuated by the woman officiating the entire affair. Every time Mom gave Emily advice on marriage, like, "Always be honest with your partner, dear," or "Trust is the most important thing," I felt a nauseating lurch in my stomach. The irony was unbearable. A few weeks before the wedding, Mom pulled me aside, tears in her eyes. "Oh, Sarah," she sighed dramatically, "I'm just so overwhelmed with all the wedding planning, and seeing Emily so happy, it just reminds me of how precious true love is. I'm so grateful for your father, for our life together." She squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of our secret, a reminder of my complicity. That was the breaking point. Something snapped inside me. Her performance, her self-congratulatory piety, it felt like a slap in the face. It wasn't about protecting Dad anymore, it was about protecting her. And I realized with chilling clarity that she had never really regretted her actions, only the possibility of being caught. She had used me to offload her guilt to ensure her secret remained buried. I knew, deep in my bones, that I couldn't stand by and watch Emily step into a marriage blessed by a woman whose own marriage was built on such a profound deception. I couldn't let my father continue to live in a gilded cage of lies. And selfishly, I couldn't carry that burden anymore. I deserved to be free. The wedding day arrived, a beautiful late spring afternoon. The venue was stunning. Flowers everywhere, string quartet playing softly. Emily looked breathtaking in her white gown, radiant with happiness. Dad, beaming, walked her down the aisle, his eyes full of love and pride. Mom watched, dabbing a tear from her eye, the picture of maternal devotion. During the reception, after the toasts and the first dance, I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. Everyone was so happy, so oblivious. I watched my parents dance, a slow, tender waltz. My dad looked utterly smitten, completely lost in the moment. And in Mom's eyes, I saw that familiar, distant flicker. The performance was flawless. I had planned nothing. No grand announcement, no dramatic scene. I honestly thought I could hold it together. But watching them, something just broke. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a rush of years of suppressed anger and resentment. I walked over to the open bar, ordered a glass of champagne, and took a deep breath. My cousin, Mark, a well-meaning but gossipy type, approached me. "Sarah, you look a little green. Everything okay?" "No, Mark," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Everything is absolutely not okay. And it hasn't been for a very long time." He looked at me, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Before I could second-guess myself, before the decades of conditioning could kick in, the words tumbled out. "Our mother," I began, my voice a little louder than I intended, "she's not who you think she is. She's been living a lie for over 35 years. Our parents' marriage, it's a sham." Mark's eyes widened, looking over my shoulder. And that's when I realized the string quartet had finished their set and the DJ was taking a break. The room was suddenly quieter than I had anticipated. My mother, who had just finished dancing with Dad, was walking past, heading towards the ladies' room. She froze mid-step. Her head slowly turned, her eyes locking onto mine. The color drained from her face. "What did you say, Sarah?" she asked, her voice a low, dangerous whisper that carried across the suddenly silent corner of the room. "I said," I repeated, my voice gaining strength, "that you're a liar, Mom, and this perfect family facade, it's all based on your decades of deceit." Her jaw clenched. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I dare," I said, a strange calm washing over me. "I dare because I can't live with your dirty secret anymore. You were having an affair, weren't you, Mom? For years, even after you married Dad? And you made me keep it quiet. You burdened your own daughter with your infidelity?" By now, several heads had turned. My aunt, my grandmother, even Emily's new in-laws were staring, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. Dad, who had been chatting with his brother near the stage, looked over, his brow furrowed. Mom's face contorted into a mask of pure fury. "You malicious, spiteful child," she hissed, stepping closer. "You're trying to ruin Emily's day." "No," I countered, shaking my head. "You ruined it, Mom, the day you chose to lie to Dad and kept lying for 35 years. I'm just finally telling the truth." "What truth?" It was Dad. He had slowly made his way over, his eyes wide, confused, looking from me to Mom. Mom visibly panicked. Her eyes darted around the room, full of desperate calculation. Then she turned to Dad, her voice suddenly soft, pleading. "Richard, darling, Sarah is just... she's upset. She's always been a little dramatic. It's nothing." "It's not nothing, Dad. I practically yelled, the years of silence finally erupting. Mom had an affair, a long-term affair. She was cheating on you for years after you got married. I found the letters when I was 16. She made me promise not to tell you because it would destroy you. But she never thought about what it was doing to me." The silence in the room became absolute, thick and suffocating. You could hear a pin drop. All eyes were on Dad. His face, which had been confused, slowly turned ashen. He looked at Mom, a bewildered, hurt expression on his face. "Eleanor?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "Is this true?" Mom, cornered, did what she always did when faced with an undeniable truth. She attacked. "Sarah is lying, Richard. She's jealous. She's always been jealous of Emily, and now she's trying to ruin everything." "Jealous of what, Mom?" I scoffed. "Your carefully constructed lie? Your manipulative tactics? I'm jealous of Emily's genuine happiness, yes. Happiness built on a foundation of honesty, something you denied Dad his entire life." Emily, alerted by the commotion, rushed over, Mark trailing behind her. "What is going on here?" she demanded, her bridal glow quickly fading. "Sarah, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth, Emily," I said, my gaze locked on Mom. "The truth our mother has kept from us all, especially Dad, for decades." And then, in front of the entire wedding party, my family, our friends, Emily's new in-laws, my father turned to my mother, his eyes brimming with tears, and said, "Eleanor, if this is true, everything was a lie." Mom didn't deny it this time. She just stood there, defiant, trapped, her perfect facade finally shattered. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. "It is true, Dad," I confirmed, my voice gentler now, seeing the profound hurt in his eyes. "I saw the letters. They were explicit. She hid them in the attic. She made me promise not to tell you because it would destroy you. but she never thought about what it was doing to me. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Emily, who had been listening with increasing horror, let out a strangled cry. "Mom, is this real? Is Sarah lying?" Mom finally found her voice, a broken sob. "Emily, no, darling, it was so long ago. A mistake. I loved your father. I chose him." But her eyes avoided Dad's. "You chose to lie to me for 35 years, Dad said, his voice quiet, filled with a devastation that cut deeper than any shout. He turned and slowly walked away, out of the reception hall, his shoulders slumped. The rest of the night was a blur. Emily, distraught, started yelling at me, accusing me of ruining her wedding, of being selfish and cruel. Her new husband, Mark, tried to calm her down, but he looked just as stunned as everyone else. My grandmother and aunts gathered around Mom, some comforting, some looking at her with thinly veiled disgust. The guests dispersed quickly, the joyous atmosphere completely obliterated. The string quartet packed up their instruments in bewildered silence. I left shortly after, the quiet triumph mixed with a profound sadness. I knew I had caused immense pain, but I also felt an incredible lightness, a release I hadn't known was possible. The fallout was immense. Dad moved out of the house the very next day. He filed for divorce a week later. It was amicable in the sense that Mom didn't fight him. She knew she had no ground to stand on. The evidence of the affair, though old, combined with my testimony of her coercing me into silence, painted a very clear picture of marital misconduct and long-term deception. Dad, bless him, wasn't seeking revenge, just truth and peace. He settled for a fair division of assets and moved into a small apartment. Emily stopped speaking to me. She couldn't forgive me for ruining her wedding. She also couldn't reconcile the image of her perfect mother with the reality I exposed. She was caught in the middle, torn between the lie she'd always believed and the painful truth. I understood her anger, but I couldn't apologize for telling the truth. My mother became a pariah within our extended family. The whispers followed her everywhere. Her social circle, built on a foundation of appearances, crumbled. Her carefully curated image of the devoted wife and mother was shattered. She tried to spin a narrative of a vengeful daughter, a moment of weakness in her youth, but the truth, once out, was too potent to contain. I lost my sister, and in a way, my mother as well. But I gained my freedom. Weeks later, the dust has settled into a new, stark landscape. It was a nuclear bomb dropped on our family, and the casualties are significant. My relationship with Emily is broken, possibly beyond repair. My mother is isolated, grappling with the destruction of her carefully constructed life. My father, while hurt beyond measure, is slowly finding a new sense of peace, a truth he can finally build upon. He even thanked me, quietly, for his freedom, though he also admitted the pain was almost unbearable. Was it worth it? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Living with that secret for 16 years was a silent torture. It shaped me in ways I didn't even realize until it was gone. It made me guarded, cynical, and deeply untrusting. It forced me into a role I never asked for, the keeper of my mother's shame. I had to choose between my mother's comfort and my own sanity, between a fabricated peace and a painful truth. Choosing truth, even when it's destructive, is liberating. I understand now that my silence didn't protect my father. It only prolonged his suffering and allowed my mother to continue her charade. It didn't protect Emily. It simply meant that she was being blessed into her own marriage by a hypocrite. And it certainly didn't protect me. It just kept me chained to a lie. The irony is, my mother often preached about integrity and family values. She truly believed she was protecting everyone by burying her past. But true protection comes from honesty, from vulnerability, and from allowing others to make informed choices about their lives. She denied my father that choice for over 30 decades. I am now learning to build my own life on a foundation of honesty and authenticity. It's scary, and I'm navigating the grief of losing a certain version of my family, but it's also exhilarating. I no longer carry the weight of someone else's sin. I no longer have to pretend. I chose freedom, and though the path was paved with broken glass and shattered illusions, I am finally, truly myself. Have any of you ever had to choose between protecting a family secret and protecting your own truth? How did it turn out for you?